Let's be real, life is messy. We all wrestle with loneliness, guilt, and shame.
Having a supportive community and the right resources can make all the difference.
That's why we started Healing Unscripted.
We're just three friends on a mission to bring hope and healing.
Whether you're struggling yourself or walking alongside someone who is,
we're diving deep into the hard stuff
with insightful guests, real talk,
and a whole lot of heart. Join us on Healing Unscripted.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Healing Unscripted. I'm Jen, and be sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe wherever you watch or listen.
Hi, I'm Liana. And November is National Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month, and not to be confused with June, which is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. June focuses on brain health and early detection, and November is dedicated to raising awareness of the disease and recognizing the role of caregivers.
Hi, I'm Laura. And yes, we are learning about all of these awareness days and how they fall into months because it's been very confusing. But we are just really excited that we get to bring up this topic. It has to do more with, our aging parents and being a caregiver to them. But today, especially, obviously, is for Alzheimer's awareness. For me, it's near and dear to my heart. It definitely is genetic and runs in my family. We lost my grandmother to Alzheimer's 2 years ago. And we lost her mother to Alzheimer's, plenty of years before that. But it was long and slow. And, since my mom has passed away more than 20 years ago, I love my aunt. My aunt, was always telling me how she was doing, but it was a lot listening to, and you feel so you have to be there, so you feel like you have to show up once or twice a week, and this goes on for, like 10 years, and just watching slowly, slowly, more and more of them fading away, and it was so hard for her, and then when she was gone, she's like, "I don't know what to do now, I don't even." You're, like, used to going to your doctor's visits, but she's used to going to visit her mom, even though it's the same conversation every time. She's still going. She's having that same little conversation over and over again. So we're just, we're here to talk about that and how people manage it, what people need for support, how to get involved with your community, find a support group for it. But we are really happy to have our dear friend Cricket here, who I know has experienced this personally. So we asked her to come on and share a little bit about how it's been for her.
It's been a doozy. Like you said, parents aging. I know that we all go through the death of our parents and, if we're lucky, the aging parents, but I just think of it as it's my turn, but I've been dreading my turn, and now it's happened, and so here I am, and I'm very passionate, and I appreciate that you guys are talking about this too, because it really needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I agree.
Is Alzheimer's something that runs in your family? You said you've been waiting for this, so you've just been waiting for your turn to take care of your
Yeah,
mom, or you knew
yeah,
this was coming?
yes, my grandmother, and I think my great-grandmother. I don't know if they had the terms then,
Right.
but, and then my mom knew, or she thought she knew if she was gonna have it, most likely, and so probably me too. We don't know, there are a lot of factors that go into it. They do suspect some environmental too, and that I had read at one point that the hereditary part was just maybe, a small part of it, but you are more likely to if somebody in your family has it, like 2 to 3 times more likely.
Wow.
But usually if the hereditary, I thought had heard that, it was more of an early onset, but I'm learning a lot since then,
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And there's always new research coming out, which is fantastic. But
exactly, that's the hope,
right.
that we have hope, that sometime we'll break this generational curse,
Yeah.
instead of it becoming more and more prevalent because of our world and our culture and the things in our environment.
Mm.
We need to learn more about it. Yeah.
Right. Well, tell us, I know you know the girls and you've known them for a while, but I
Yes.
really just have gotten to know you more recently, and it was for a whole 'nother reason. So do you wanna tell the story about because your dad was her caretaker.
Right. Yeah, so I said I've been dreading this time. My dad was the caretaker for my mom, and this time last year, he was in a car accident that put him into the hospital. And so I went down to the Front Range where I grew up and where they live now. And for 4 weeks, we were running to the hospital every day and to see my dad, and then he passed away. And so not only did I have to deal with that, and my mom had to deal with that, she does has and have Alzheimer's, and I don't live at home, so I don't really know to what extent. I did go down there every 3 months. I had all my appointments down there, my hair, my dentist, everything, so that I could use that as an excuse to check in on my parents because they are aging. And thankfully, a couple of years ago, one of my parents' neighbors, they live 10 miles outside of town between Loveland and Fort Collins. She got a hold of me and she said, I just want to reach out and see if you want me to, if you want my number, because I live right across from your parents. I'm good friends with them. And I know what it's like to have aging parents and not be around. And it was a godsend because then that just a couple months later, we ended up with an incident where there was an ambulance up there and she let me know that it was there. "Do you want me to go check on it?" And I said, "Yeah, thanks, please do." And, at first, we thought it might be my dad. My mom had called 911, but she had the wherewithal to call 911 because she fell, but she was fine, but it was progressing. My dad was not there. Like, we couldn't get a hold of my dad. Did not know. He didn't carry a cell phone because he couldn't hear it anyway,
Yeah.
didn't like it, his generation.
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
so,
How old were they? Just so we can
my mom is 83 now, and
Okay.
my dad was 85.
Okay.
And, so this was a couple of years ago, and, the EMTs are like, "Yeah, your mom's really feisty." And she's really, adamant about leaving a note for your dad on the door. So, she definitely has her moments of clarity and everything, and so we finally tracked him down, and then I sent him a phone, and I said, "You are
Yeah.
carrying this." I said, "This could have turned out a lot worse." Well, that's the backstory because then a year later, which was September in 2024, my dad has his accident. And so luckily in that year, he was getting a little more serious about preparing um, and getting ready for whatever could happen to him because he knew. He was the main caregiver. So I had a month of taking my mom back and forth to the hospital, and I got to see how much she really had progressed. I knew she was forgetting things. Um, I knew that I did notice that she was starting to withdraw from activities with the family and from conversations. She would be there, but she was just listening. We used to play games as a family or whatever when, with our get-togethers, and she stopped playing games and she would busy herself just cleaning up in the kitchen and stuff. And now I look back and I see how she was just withdrawing, probably because she was starting to have troubles tracking conversation,
Yep.
and she was having trouble. Probably she didn't want anybody to know she didn't have the strategy anymore to play the
Yeah.
games or the rules, whatever. So little things like that. She started getting real suspicious. My dad would say something, like, "Oh, one time I wanted to borrow their dog crate." And, he said, "Well, you have to run it by your mom first." And, so I ran it by her, and then she would swear up and down after that. She would tell everybody how I took the dog crate, or if something turned up missing in the house, I know Cricket took it. And I have no
Yeah.
idea
And
where
it's a
the base
paranoia,
is.
yeah, kind of too.
Yeah. Yeah, so she started getting suspicious, but, that's all I really saw, and I knew that again, the repeating herself. She did have a late onset cancer, They don't think it was a genetic form, just environmental. And when she was 75, and so the chemo that she went through after that seemed to escalate things, but it was hard to tell at that point how much of it was chemo brain. She kept
Mhm.
recalling, blaming everything on her chemo
Right.
brain,
Mhm.
and how much was just more progression. So that was all I had seen. And then
How long ago was that she had the chemo
that
brain?
was 8 years ago.
Okay. So
Yeah,
this has been
she was
going on
75.
since then that you've
Just the
done
real,
looking. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Was she on medication for the Alzheimer's?
No, she was on a lot of medication. I did not even know if she had been formally diagnosed.
Okay.
I saw after my dad was in the hospital, I had to make decisions and figure things out on the fly, and with her working against me
Right.
because like I said, she was really suspicious, and so she was hiding all the documents from me. So
Mhm.
I couldn't get anything done, and luckily my mom is very um, left-brained, very linear, very detailed. Um, I'm just the opposite. So when she first started forgetting things before her chemo, she would be like, "Oh, I can't remember what I did with that." And I'm like, "Welcome to my world, mom."
I can
Because
relate.
I grew up that way. And she's like, "I know, and I don't like it." And it really bothered her. It just bothered her. I know that she spent a lot of time researching how to prolong the disease, what you can do to prevent it as much as
So
possible.
she
Hmm.
kind of knew that that's where she was heading.
Yes, she didn't wanna know,
Yeah.
but because she wanted to live her life, not like she was dying, but or going to disappear,
Yeah.
but at the same time, she was so obsessed with it, and so I would see little notes like, "Practice remembering your neighbors' names," or, "Can you
Oh,
remember
that's
all the
cute.
people you worked with in this office? Can you remember
Yeah.
all your phone numbers?" Just to try and keep herself do lots of puzzles,
Mhm.
lots of, engage your brain. Don't let it,
Right. That's great that she
yeah,
was actually doing I mean, that's all the preventative stuff that they say to do.
yes. But she had a terrible time with her mother, and that was the
Mm.
other part of it was, it almost 20 years to the day where her mother, she had to go back to New York where she grew up, upstate New York, and her mother, they were at the point where they had to go into assisted living, but her dad was still alive. And my grandmother was horrible to my mom. She would beat her up, get angry at her, say horrible things about her personally.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so she was so
I
traumatized,
bet.
and then she ended up in the hospital, just stress related, from all of that too.
Your mom
So,
did? Ended up in the
yeah.
hospital?
So it
Oh.
doesn't just
Oh.
it affects everybody around
Mhm.
you, in the family, and so it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's a cruel
it is
disease for
It
really
sure.
is.
hard.
Do you feel like, because I know that some people are violent and
Mhm.
some people are just forgetful and like the personalities are different. Does that magnify their own personalities? Like, or can it make somebody who was never violent before all of a sudden violent? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I don't really know. I do think I kind of laugh. I mean, sometimes you have to laugh or you cry, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I do think sometimes when I hear stuff come out of her mouth, it's like I feel like she's like an alcoholic, or when somebody drinks, you feel like you
Mhm.
hear the real truth.
Yeah. Truth
Um,
serum.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I almost feel like sometimes when she would have her outbursts, it's like, is this what she really thought all along? Has she always been thinking
Mhm.
this way about me? I don't
Yeah.
know, because I never saw violent tendencies
Right.
in her before, but she is feisty, like
Yeah.
everybody says.
So my sister had a TBI most of her life and it progressively got worse. So a lot of those symptoms are the same.
Yes, my son's the same, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it's true. If it's like they lose their filter and you're like, you really think that? Or are we
Yeah.
just having a little moment? Yeah.
Yeah, and so that was
Right.
the other
You
thing. I was noticing that she was starting to latch on to things, um,
yeah.
which a lot of people can do with brain injuries too. So, my son, when he was down going to physical therapy school in Fort Collins, he moved in with my parents for a little bit. And he ended up in tears because she was so horrible to him and blamed him. When are you getting your stuff out of here? Did you really have to move all this stuff into the house? And just like my dad had to pull him aside and said, "This is not your grandmother." He didn't know what to make of it. It was just such a change in her
Right.
personality. But she latched on to that forever, that whole idea, even after he moved out, about how every time Hondo came, when he came to live, he had to bring his whole apartment with him, and they
Mhm.
didn't have room for it, and the stuff's still
Mhm.
there, and forever, like, she just hung
That's
on to
so
that.
interesting because
Yeah.
normally it's the short-term memory that keeps falling off, right? And you have all your past memories
Yeah.
you hold on to. So it's interesting how they get one and it sticks. And then I wonder if it's a comfort.
Like,
It's
they
gotta be
remember that.
comforting for them that
Mhm.
they do remember that one thing. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
then it goes back to also the whole other side of this is, can you imagine being the person?
Mm,
Your thoughts.
I know.
So and part of the education for them is being so empathetic with them because we
Right.
just have no idea
So hard.
It is hard.
That
what
is
they're going through
the
and
hardest
knowing
thing
that
ever.
we know that everything is not connecting and then the
Right.
patience to be gentle with them.
Well, and that's one of the takeaways that I have learned from this journey is, because when during those 4 weeks, again, I'm dragging her everywhere. Because I need her. I'm her POA. Well, POA ends upon death, but everything in the will went to her unless she was incapacitated. Well, I didn't know if she had been diagnosed yet, so I had to take her everywhere to get another POA that I could act on immediately, and make the best decisions that I could real quickly because I she couldn't help me with their decisions and what they did. They did have, things set up, and so one of my takeaways that I would if I were talking to somebody about it is be prepared, even though she didn't wanna know
Correct.
if
Yeah.
she was going down the Alzheimer's path, to be prepared for it and they did their wills, they did their POAs, they did a thing, it's called Transitions, 5 Wishes, that I could use all of those when it came time for the hospital because luckily when we were in the hospital with my dad, they could see she was incapacitated and
Mm.
they just needed 2 out of 3 doctors to overrule,
Oh,
and
good.
then I became her medical POA in the hospital. But then she would get angry because they'd come in the
Mhm.
room
And talk
and they
to
would
you.
look at me and talk
Yeah.
to me, and
Yeah.
I'd have to say, "Can you, say this?" And so finally started standing next to her when they came into the room to
Yeah.
talk, because you learn that, um, it's the feelings that
Yeah.
matter to them, not the facts, and
Mhm.
we have
Right.
to let go of that too. It's not the facts, it's just how they feel, and then look at what's triggering their feelings.
Are you an
Um
only child?
I am not. I have my brother, kind of a long story, but he was there, but he did not wanna be a part of all this. So
Okay.
he let me just
Handle it.
handle
Okay.
it, and it actually was a blessing because I didn't have to run everything by him. He signed everything over to me because everything was us as we were supposed to be like co-partners.
Uh-huh.
I could make all the decisions, but
That's nice.
when I needed him, like to sell the house. So, I'm making all the claims I'm trying to sell the house, I'm selling her car. I would just call him up and I asked him, I said, "Can you just get the ball rolling on that?" And then I would just pray every morning because I had so much to deal with my dad's journey because they thought he was getting better at first and I was going to have in-home care for her and for
Oh my
him,
goodness.
and then they were gonna keep him in the hospital in the long-term ICU for 6 to 8 weeks because of his age. If something happened, the complications would be worse. So then it was back to just home care or something for her. And then, he died, and then I had to figure out the whole home situation. So I said, if you could just get the ball rolling on that. And every morning I would just pray, Lord, just put the right people in my path because I don't know, I want to do what's best for my mom. He would tell me in the hospital, just keep your mom safe, just keep your mom safe. And
Oh,
I know now, one of her triggers is security. If she feels insecure and not safe,
Mhm.
that gets her agitated. And so just knowing those things, then I can know how to talk to her.
right.
They say don't ask them direct questions.
Yep.
Just they're the experts. Even if
Mhm.
they're faulty, their memories are faulty, you join the club and go with it.
Yep.
And then the last thing is just you don't contradict them, it's the truth. And
Mhm.
so there's so many feelings that go into all this too, because I felt like I was betraying my mom. They call them therapeutic lies, those little white
I've
lies
never
just
heard that
to
before,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a
but
good
that's
term.
yep.
To
Learned something
yeah,
new.
because you try to, distract them, divert them. So
Yep.
one of the things when she, would get hung up on was, I'm trying to think of an example, just, where the money is. Um,
Oh, money's a big one usually
Money's a
for
big
that
one,
one.
and that
Yeah.
was one of the things that she's really suspicious about with my dad. And I you just try and say something to distract them so they forget about it. When she first moved into her facility, which we did finally get her into, she was wondering about a phone, and we'd have to tell her, "Oh, the phone jack doesn't work. We'll get maintenance on it," and then she'd forget about it.
Mhm.
Right.
So you
Yes.
feel guilty, and you feel like you're throwing them under the bus a lot of
Yeah.
times, and um, it-
Or I
so
think it
But
would
that's
it's
be
why.
to keep them
hard too,
calm
like if
and
they were accusing you of something, like stealing or whatever, like that would be so hard to let go. And I would
Yes,
I would want to defend myself. Like, of course
yes.
I didn't steal any.
Right, and she has said that to me at one of the times I went, she called me up. She got a hold of the phone in the facility, and she called me, and she said, "So, are you coming to get me now?" And I'm like, "No, Mom, I can't come get you. It's not safe for you. This is where Dad wanted you to be." And, and she asked about, her doctors and then the budget and all that, and I said, I'm sorry, Mom, the courts turned it over. You can't take care of this information yourself. And I know that's really hard for you to, she's like, well, would it surprise you if I told you I don't trust you?
Oh, wow.
no,
And
it doesn't.
I said, no, I said, I can't imagine if you can't remember things and then people tell you this is what happened and you don't remember it. I can't imagine how that would feel, or the fact that if you're used to being in control of something and now you don't know any of this stuff, and it's got to be so frustrating and scary, so you just
Mhm.
kind of try and relate with them on the feeling level again.
I
It's
like that you're reiterating that.
Yeah, but I had to learn because at first she would have her moments where she would be tracking conversation. I could show her budget. I could say this. I'd say, I'm not leaving any numbers around for
Mhm.
anybody to find or anything. Mom said, that's when I was like, you just have to trust me. Well, would it surprise you to know? No. Uh,
Do they know that they're not remembering?
yes. And that's what's
They
really
That's
do?
what's
hard
scary.
for
I
her.
think that's what give
Oh,
it's scary, and then it creates this fear.
yeah.
So imagine just kind of like it's just fearful because
Right.
you know that parts are missing. They
Mhm.
know that.
And going back to what you said before about the short-term memory versus the long-term memory, that's what I always thought too, like they reverse in age. And, but she told me one time when I was there, she said, how come I just remember all the bad things?
Mm.
And so I think again, it goes back to it's the feelings, and those are the traumatizing feelings, those bad things that have happened. I never once had to tell her that my dad died.
Oh,
I
interesting.
Wow.
didn't have to tell her that he was in an accident. I did learn because she wanted to see the doctor. Well, and she would ask the nurses all the time, so who is his doctor? Because you know how many people are in and out of those rooms,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And they'd say, well, the doctors come around early, like between 8 and 9. So the one night I told her, I said, well, if you want to talk to the doctor tomorrow, we have to be there at 8. So I'm going to wake you up early. Not a good thing with for somebody
No.
with Alzheimer's.
Correct.
She normally gets up like 10, 11 o'clock sometimes. And so I went in and I said, so if you want to go see Dad today, we need to get you up and going and moving. And she's like, Dad, what happened to my dad? And I said, no, not your dad, my dad. I had to stop calling my dad Dad because she would think it was her dad. And she got all upset. She said, I said, no, your dad. I said, Dad's in the hospital. Do you remember that? Len, my dad's name, is in the hospital. Do you remember that? Yeah. But what happened to my dad? And I said, well, your dad died. She said, he died?
Oh,
Wow.
gosh.
And I just had this whole 2 hours in the morning. She's like, what about my mom? I said, your mother died too. She
Oh,
said,
my
did my sister know? And she didn't tell me because her
Mhm.
sister, her youngest sister is only 4 years older than I am. So
Oh.
they're, big difference in age. And um, she's like, well, who else is not here in my family? And she says, you need to draw this out for me. On paper. I need to see it. I need to see all the members of my family and what happened to them and where are they now and where are they buried. And then she got hung up on the
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
Anyway, so I learned then that, I needed to wake her up and let her wake up because her brain couldn't handle that.
How did
Even
you learn
though-
all
Yeah.
this, though? Like, what resources did you turn to
I wish
figure
I
this out?
had the resources that I know about now, because like I said, I had to do so many things on the fly so quickly that I didn't have them. And when I was in the hospital, they bombarded me with resources for in-home care and things like that. But the situation was changing so much and I didn't know where to start and I didn't have the time and everybody's calling me and texting me and I didn't know. I mean, it was too soon for me. And yet that's why I was just praying that God would send the right people in my path.
Yeah, you
Uh,
got thrown in, and
Yeah.
it was just a learning curve.
It
And
was a learning
quick and
curve.
fast and
Yeah.
crazy and
And
wild.
and that's why I was like making a list of, okay, so what did I learn out of this? That was the other thing. I had to find a facility for her fast. We found a Good Samaritan Loveland and we moved her in Halloween. Day 2 there, she slashed the screen. She was on the 4th floor and she was not in her room when I went up to see her. And there was a note that said, nice place here, but my sister just dropped me off here without me knowing or having any say in this because she wants our house
Oh, my
and put her
goodness.
address from her home and back in New York when she was a child. And she was gone. So we had to get security out looking. They
Oh.
had 3 cars of pairs of people looking out around Loveland and it was all hands on deck looking for her. And then,
Oh my gosh, how
An
scary.
escapee.
and
Ooh.
she thought I was her sister,
Yeah.
at that point. She was confusing me with her sister. They spot her and bring her back. And I'm
Where was
sitting in her
she?
room. I'm sitting in her room and she sees me and she's like, so are you here because you feel guilty about dropping me off here? And she didn't remember we had toured these places together. She was all excited and planning where she was going to put the furniture, all that stuff. I mean, it had just completely. And then she, later on the next day, she remembered the incident and she said, well, apparently I have to check out if I want to go for a walk because she thought she just went for a walk.
Where'd they find her?
She was on her way back. She had walked down to the highway. She thought it was Interstate I-25, and she was going to get a ride to one of her friends' house and see if she could live with them.
Oh, my gosh.
And actually, or go home because she wanted to go home. And
Oh.
so
That's
She
so scary.
there was a there was
So
a couple out there that recognized that she looked kinda confused, and they were in the neighborhood of this facility, so I think they were used to that,
Yes.
and they pointed her
Yeah.
back the right direction. But that was, again, one of those times I had to tell her the little white lie, "We sold your house." Well, we hadn't quite sold it yet, but, we had to tell her so that she would quit asking to go home, and, yeah, that was hard, but
How
What
did
what
that
kind
go?
of support were you getting during this time? I mean, you had lost your dad, and then now you're navigating essentially losing your mom in a way.
yeah.
Like, what support did
I
you
was
have?
just on autopilot for just taking care of business. I did not have time to take care of me or think about what was going on. I could not even start to process things. After she slashed the window, she tried to escape a couple other times. She's very mobile still. And one time she was downstairs and she told the security that the police were coming to get her to take her to her husband's funeral. Um, my dad didn't, thankfully, my dad didn't want a funeral or he just wanted to be cremated. He didn't want any kind of viewing or anything. I did, I picked up his remains. I was going to take her with, but she thinks she went and
Perfect.
picked him up.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, but she decided she didn't want to see him because the day before, the hard part was when we were visiting, the last time we saw him, he was looking really good. And she was talking to him, and I think he knew that he was not going to be around for much longer, and he just let her carry on and repeat herself,
Mm.
and he just was looking at her, and so she just saw his loving blue eyes,
Mm.
and that's how she wanted to remember him. So she didn't even. I paid for a private viewing for her. She didn't want to see him, but I went in. I had 10 minutes with my dad, um, and so that was kind of like it. The rest of the
Mm.
time, I did not have time, so I don't know how I got through it really. At the assisted living gave me the group called Dementia Together, and she said, "I highly recommend that you get a hold of them." And, I did finally get a hold of them, and they're awesome. They're an online support group, so I could get online and talk with other caregivers. And then, they also have a program of how to talk to your loved one, how the changes are. They kind of have this model of a photo album. And a normal person's brain, every second, we're taking snapshots that are going into that photo album, the facts and the feelings that go along with each of those snapshots. Well, somebody with dementia that's starting to forget things, they're going to start having those. When you look at a photo album or like a yearbook and they have those black pictures for the
Yes.
people that weren't there that day, that's what kind of happens with them. Like in the photo album, it's like those pictures are missing some of the facts. And so they have memories, but the facts are maybe not accurate. And then as they progress, they're just a sea of feelings. None of the facts are there. And I can see that with her now because thankfully, so that back to the facility, they called me and they said, we can't keep her safe here. You're going to have to find a different place. And so I had to find another place, and all her neighbors that helped us move her came back and helped me move her again.
Full memory
Eh,
care then? Yeah, if she was
Yes,
in a
it's
skilled nursing, I mean, like,
right. She was in
she needed
assisted
to be.
living, and then
Yeah.
so now she was in a lockdown
Yeah.
Yeah.
place. And she was so angry and at me and even her friends because she saw them moving her furniture in the whole way that we planned for this to happen. And how to tell her, we couldn't really tell her because she forgot already that she was having to be moved. And so we moved her in, and she's angry at me.
Does she remember that she's angry with you, or is she angry
She
and
was
then
angry at my dad, and I would say, "Mom, that I would try and reason at first, and it didn't
Mhm.
work. You and Dad looked at these places. This is the place that he wanted you to be. The first thing is for your safety. Well, why don't you take me home with you?" And I said, "Do you remember?" And I'm like kicking myself. Of course he doesn't remember. But I
Yeah.
was like, with your mom and dad, you didn't move in with them either. And there's a reason because I can't keep you safe. And this is where you need to be. And it's taken her a long time, but she's finally there. And I think it's because that photo album, the feelings are changing and she's feeling safe and a little more secure. And so now her narrative is that my dad picked that room out for her. I know
Oh.
he picked this room out because I can see the birds and the squirrels
Mhm.
out there. And she's gluten free, so that was another thing I had to deal with the facilities, because she wasn't really getting gluten-free meals. They didn't really understand how to do that, so she was afraid to eat,
Oh
period.
my.
And now she says, I heard that the other wing over there, they have a guaranteed gluten-free kitchen. And your dad, when he was there, when he was here, he would huff on over there and make sure that they bring me gluten-free meals. So in her mind, she was living there with my dad.
Oh,
And you
wow.
just you go with it.
New
Yes.
memories.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How
Because
long were they married?
Oh.
62 years.
Oh,
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, she had never been alone either
Mm,
before. So,
that's really
and
cool.
and leaving the house was hard on her because it was a log house. He built it from scratch. I mean, like they went to Wyoming and picked out the logs so they could get 12-inch logs. And I remember as in high school, I didn't help helping to strip the bark off those logs, and then we'd have like bricks from an old fireplace that we had to chisel off all the old cement. And so he built this, and they built it as they had the money. So, they were living in it, partially done and all that. But so she did not want to leave that place. But one of the things that I know, her insecurities, again, another thing is they have frequently asked questions, and they'll ask the same questions over and over again. And it's usually
Mhm.
about something that they're insecure about. And so I found a lot of little notes because she likes to write things down around the house. She was asking my dad the same questions. And then I found one note after his accident that said, I I love you. I miss you. I don't want you to go, but I understand if you have to. But where are our accounts? How much
Huh.
money's in it? Do I stay here? Can I have a dog? Because she loves dogs, and her dog had died, and she can't take care of dogs. So my dad would never let her get another dog, and so now she's like, and if you don't come back, I'm getting 2 dogs.
Huh.
And but that was the same questions that I see all around. So then I would start writing the answers to the questions so that every time she had them, she could look at the answer, hopefully,
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
and see. I thought it was a good idea, but my daughter. So here's where we are now. My daughter and my grandson just moved down there. They were living with us at the end of this spring here, and they just moved down to Fort Collins. They go see my mom every week, and she loves to see her great grandson. They're the same
Sweet.
age developmentally.
Mhm.
They're both toddlers, and it's
Mhm.
perfect. But it makes her so happy that now she talks about how happy she is. So
Yay.
yeah,
Happy memories
yeah. So
and making happy memories.
but now I have
Right.
to worry the same thing with my daughter. It's like, okay, now she's in a caregiver role.
Yeah.
It was hard doing it remotely because I would send groceries to her so that she would know they were gluten-free things. And it's like, I hope they got there. I hope she got the order,
Mhm.
things
Yeah,
like
you
that.
can't double check with her
Right,
really.
right. I got a Medicare summary, and that was another thing. I don't know about Medicare and Medicaid yet. And I mean, Medicare and the supplements and all that. And so I got the summary, and it said one of the visits, she had like toenails removed, and a non-cancerous growth removed. And I'm like, I did not know this happened. Am I not being informed? Uh, or is it just a wrong? doing.
Coding.
Yeah. Or whatever, but you don't know what's really going on. I'm relying on other people to be my eyes and ears. And then when she first moved into the places too, every time they would call me, I thought I needed to fix it. I thought they were calling to fix it. I didn't realize they were just calling to inform me, to keep me
Yes.
informed.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh no, I have to go down there.
Do
I have to do
something.
this. I have to take care of this. Yeah. Because they would call about anything. Your mom your mom needs new sheets. And I'd be like, well, what happened to her old sheets? She doesn't think they're hers. So she keeps giving them back to us. And I'm like, even though they're labeled, she doesn't think they're her sheets. So I'm like, okay, I have to go get sheets. I would panic and run. And so I was driving myself crazy. And I don't want that to happen to my daughter too. And I look back and I think my poor dad, they were so isolated. He needed to get out. That was part of why I like to go down there every 3 months. I thought, well, maybe he can get out of the house. And he even started a support group, going to a support group. And my dad would not do something like
Wow.
that, but it was that bad, I think, for him.
Yeah.
Did he
And
communicate this with you or your
No,
brother as to like
no,
what was really happening in the home with her?
no. What he never, they don't want to be a burden to anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of grew up in this household. My dad's very reserved, Italian, traditional Italian father. And he just wanted to keep things, you don't talk about politics, religion, money, and you don't air your dirty laundry. I never heard my parents fight growing up. It's not that they didn't, they just kept it between the two of them. And so I think that just was kind of his approach. And that was one of the things I told him in the hospital was like, we're here. We can help you. When we thought he was going to make it, don't try and do this on your own, please. And
Something
that's
about that generation too is they don't want to burden other people or
Yes.
make them worry, so they try to
Yes.
carry it.
But they're the
all on
first
their
to
own.
help out others, and that's
Mhm.
why his neighbors were so great. But so that's another takeaway is build that network because we need it. You have to take care of yourself.
Absolutely, as a caregiver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call
I
it compassion fatigue. And I
Yes.
believe it because I was so tired all the time.
Yeah.
And then you just, like you said, you don't know when it's going to end. And so I have my things to go through too, the grieving from the death, but
Mhm.
also some depression because it's like, well, is this my future? And how long do I have? I don't want to be obsessed with it, but, I need to get prepared if this is going to happen to me and just getting kind of depressed with that. And
Are there steps you can take medically to be like evaluated so like you have a baseline, or
you
is that a
can't,
thing?
that's yeah. As far as Alzheimer's, the one thing that makes it distinguishes Alzheimer's from dementia is Alzheimer's is an actual physical thing you can see in the brain, and you can
On
see it in the
imaging.
early stages. So you can get tested to see if you are showing signs, and there's some hope out there now. So I'm clinging to the hope because they know that there's a plaque buildup in between the neurons, and then they call them the tangles,
Mhm.
and I forget the other term now. I just lost it, but the plaques and the tangles,
Mhm.
and the plaques are in between the neurons, and the cells in the tangles are on them, and they interfere with communication, which is why they have trouble communicating, and then the cells die away, and so you can see that shrinkage, and you can see the pattern
Hmm.
of that. Everybody has a little bit, but
That's it.
actually, there are studies where they're actually trying to like remove some of that plaque in those tangles. I don't know if they could do the tangles too, but removing some of the plaque, it's like a abnormal protein fragments that they can clean out, and maybe it will at least delay onset, things
So
like
they have to
that.
like surgery kind of
I
thing?
have no idea.
And then I was
Really.
also wondering, like, is there any supplements or anything naturally
Yes.
that people can start
There's a lot.
doing?
There are
There's
a
a
lot
lot
of
you can
medications too that they give them.
For prevention or for if you have like
Prevention.
early onset?
prevention,
To
I
slow
heard,
down progress?
but I'm not.
I don't know. I thought it was more just dealing with the anxiety, the depression, and things like that. Because it's she's on the psychotics, and there's always a trade-off, of course.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And to me, the trade-off is whatever puts her at peace, because
Right.
that's the biggest thing. I just want her in a place of peace, because from the beginning, early onset till now, and she's just lived a whole life of agitation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's managing the symptoms of Alzheimer's
Yeah.
because there's not some magical drug out there
There's not a
to really
cure
help
yet.
to
Yeah.
help with
Not
it.
drugs specifically, but I was wondering about like vitamins, like magnesium and
Yes.
olive oil and
We
oil of
have
oregano and like
in
things like
general,
yeah,
all the research, it's just like everything else with our health. I mean, and they
not so
talk
much
about it all the
sugar.
time. Take out processed foods.
Yes.
Eat like
Move.
more of a Mediterranean diet.
Mhm.
And if you
Yeah.
exercise every day,
Right.
and then still it's always, use your brain every day.
Mhm.
But the healthy diet and exercise, and I think I've seen recently in some studies that they're like, if you like exercise is almost more important
I've seen
than
that.
the super healthy diet. The
Mhm.
fact that you're moving,
Mhm.
Yes.
then the movement moves
Pumping
your
that
muscles,
blood.
moves
Yeah.
the
That comes from my
enzymes and
physical therapist
lymphatic
son,
and
for sure. Yes.
yeah,
yeah.
it is
Move, move.
healing.
Mhm.
And people up here who are really healthy, who I ask them a lot, how do you stay so healthy? Oh my gosh, you're not on any medications and you're 85.
Right.
And their answer, all of them, I move
Move.
every day.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I know I had a cousin who did a lot of research because she did realize like this could be hereditary. We lost,
Mhm.
a grandmother and a great grandmother and maybe more before that. And she did a lot of research into if we kind of clean up what we're doing and we just take care of ourselves, it
Right.
does lower the risk.
And that's why I talk
Interesting.
about the environmental
Mhm.
actually being more than hereditary, and even things like avoiding plastic. So I don't store anything in plastic as far as that goes.
I think
mean,
that could be a huge one too.
Yeah, I
because
think so. Yeah.
plastics have
I'm
been
some of the
found.
research out there is suggesting that. So
They
there's a
found
lot of
they
environmental.
found particles of plastics
The
in
brain.
brain.
Mhm.
So that
Yeah.
means somehow it's crossing the
Crossing.
blood brain and
Ugh.
you have plaques that are in there. We don't
Mhm.
need that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, and they grew up, they all were in,
The Tupperware
Yes.
years.
yes, but they were in farm country, it was central Illinois. And you think of all pesticides and things that
Right.
Mhm.
So
were
we
put
have
on
no
everything then.
idea. So I think it's really going to become even more prevalent in our society,
Mhm.
and until we figure out exactly and clean things up.
Hmm.
Do you guys know what the difference of dementia and Alzheimer's is? Because I've always wondered that.
Yeah. So the Alzheimer's is that actual medical. You can see it. Whereas dementia is just an umbrella for all different types of on a spectrum of
Like
memory loss.
Cognitive
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
dysfunction.
there's more like tests you can do to see what you're remembering or
Mhm.
not memory, but there's not a specific test exam you can do and say, oh, I can see that
See
you
it.
have dementia.
Yeah.
Like on
That makes
CT
sense.
Mhm.
or MRI
Yeah.
Right.
imaging, you can actually see changes within the brain.
Right.
Hmm.
And that's how they
Interesting.
diagnose that.
Mhm.
And then, and it's not uncommon to have mixed dementia.
With Alzheimer's. And a lot of
Yeah.
time it
Yeah.
starts with dementia and then it turns into. So usually I feel like dementia is more unless it's early onset Alzheimer's, because that
Mhm.
kind of comes
It's
and
rapid, more rapid, right?
Yes.
Rapid
Right.
progression, early onset
Yes.
Yes.
Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so she has the vascular Alzheimer's, basically. So it's the blood supply. That was my guess.
Hmm. Good job. It's like you are a nurse. You've learned so much in the last year.
I know it's been
Not that you wanted to everything, but
it's been a whirlwind of a year for sure.
When
And
you call her, does she remember you? She knows your
yes,
kid, and does she remember that she has a son?
yes,
Okay.
and I haven't
good.
seen him.
Oh,
that's
So she
cute.
knows he hasn't come
That's
to see
good.
him. It's funny because yeah, and I've heard when they start to forget you, they'll remember the voice. So like if they hear you first or you talk to them over the phone, they'll remember you.
Mm.
But because you don't look like what they remember you looking like. It's
Mhm.
that's what throws them off.
Right.
But yeah, so she introduces me as Laura. My legal name is Laura. I've never heard my parents call me that. My dad, when I was
So
born, thought I looked like
interesting.
Jiminy Cricket. So
Oh,
my mom's like, I'm not naming my daughter Cricket, my firstborn kid. Well, she started calling me Cricket before they were even out of the hospital. I've not heard my parents call me
Oh my
Laura.
goodness.
And so now,
I know. Did you know that? She has
I've
I
always
did not know
wondered.
that.
Yeah.
so now I'm like at the facility and she'll introduce people to me and she'll say, this is Laura. And
Wow.
my mom called me that before. It sounds so weird. And she'll say, the daughter I love hate, because those are the feelings that she associates with me.
Oh.
It's a love-hate relationship for
Hmm.
her. And so it's really been good to have my daughter there as her caregiver right now because my daughter, she loves.
Have you guys always had
Yeah.
a love-hate relationship?
No.
Okay, so this
Oh,
is like a new
gosh.
It's just the
thing.
That's
I would be
yeah.
like,
Yeah, that's why I wonder though. It's like
Yeah. Yeah.
what you were saying before. So is this something that's always been there?
Right.
You start to wonder.
Yeah.
and I would want to like dig into that and ask questions, but you can't,
Right.
like
Right.
what? Oh gosh.
Oh, Jen, that would be so hard for you.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
So all you can do is it's a lot of grace everywhere. You
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
people always say, well, you just have to remember that it's not your mom. And it's like, I know, but still. I mean, the last time I went to see her, just last month, because it's been a year. I didn't want to remind her it's been a year. She can't remember how long it's been since the accident. I went in to see her and, it's good now as far as, but I'm more like her business person than her daughter. And it's just different. And I can't share things with
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
The
'Cause
roles are
she
changing.
can't even track a conversation anymore. I just had another grandbaby. She's 3 months old now. My son had a grandbaby and I'm showing her pictures and her attention span. She didn't even have time to look at those pictures, but she has pictures plastered all over her wall because that's what she does
Mm.
all the rest of the time. But I went out into the parking lot and I cried because it's like, I miss my mom. I lost my
You're
dad.
mourning. You're
Yeah.
mourning
Gosh.
your mom and your relationship.
Right. And I lost them both at the same time
Yeah.
and yet in such different ways. And
Mhm.
I'm thinking, I don't know which is worse. I think it's my mom
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
it's such a slow death,
Yeah.
like you said.
Yeah.
And I can't be her little girl anymore. I can't be her daughter. And I'm trying to be. And they say, you should just treat them like a new friend. But
Oh,
I
I
miss my
like
mom.
that.
I do
Yeah.
like that. And
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to do. But
I
sometimes
think
it's
it's
like I just want
I
to
said
talk to
this-
my mom
easier for
again.
your mom to act like you're her new friend, but that's not so easy for you.
Right.
I was really missing my sister, but my sister also was getting very bad with her memory and all that stuff. Towards the end, I talked to my daughter about it and I said, do you miss your auntie? How do you feel? She's like, I didn't know her like you did. I've
Mhm.
known her, she was kind of apart from us for a while and distant. So I was like, that's so interesting. I'm like, well, no, now that I think about it, I don't miss my sister in the last few years, but I miss my sister
Right.
of what I remember. And so that was a really interesting perspective to have. I was like, oh yeah, no, I don't miss the mean comments and her
Right.
forgetfulness. It was sad. It was sad. We fought a lot just because my reaction to her is still normal. What you would
Right.
react if you were to say something mean to me. I'd be
Mhm.
like, oh, excuse me. That's just our normal human reaction. So you to have that much grace and stuff, that's really
Yeah. You
admirable
just
for
have
you.
to.
But I did
In
not
the
have that
end,
much grace.
I know.
But yeah, I did mourn my sister's relationship for a long time before she actually left. So
Yeah.
I totally
Yeah.
understand.
I just try and remember do everything out of love because there were times where I would say something and I'd be like, oh, I should not have said that. But she doesn't know what she's saying. She doesn't know what she's
Yeah.
doing. And just, it's hard.
That's okay because you can redo.
Yeah, she
Yeah. You
got
get to
it.
redo every time.
Yeah.
But
That's a
like,
positive. I'm not doing that again. Check
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, and hopefully she forgot that. It wasn't
Yes.
so traumatic that she forgot that. I
Yeah.
said that.
What about
Yeah.
your daughter? Is she able to like proceed with grace throughout this process as well?
My daughter is a natural caregiver. Yes, she's worked in a memory care facility before. She was a certified medical assistant in California before she came out here, had her baby, and now she's in Fort Collins to go through the nursing program there. But it's going to be a lot for her. She's got a toddler. She's going to be going through the
Yeah.
nursing program in 2 years, and she's going to be the caregiver for my mom. Luckily, not the full-time caregiver.
Right.
The
Yeah.
facilities.
Right, thank
I
God.
thank them all the time and tell them how much I appreciate them.
Right.
And they see this all the time, which is sad, but at least, they know what they're doing.
Right.
When they say, "Don't worry, we've seen this before," we think
Yeah.
it's horrible.
Mhm.
When she first got in there, I was like, "Are you sure she can't get out these locked doors?"
Yeah.
She's got a window that opens out into a courtyard. It's walled off, but she's going to climb that tree. I know my mom.
Yeah, she's done it.
Yeah, right. But they were right,
Mm.
they were right. She
Wow.
settled in, so
That's good.
yeah.
What is some of your words of wisdom to caregivers going into caring for a parent with Alzheimer's? Kind of
Like I
your
saw, give yourself grace, prepare, educate yourself, prepare so that you can make the decisions that you need to make. And I forgot what else. Just find support, find your network
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
you do need to
that's
take
what
care of yourself.
I was going to mention. We have some information here on support. Of course, you can go online for Alzheimer's Association,
Mhm.
but they have an 800 number as well, 800-272-3900. And there's Alzheimer's Society. And then I wanted to mention too what you were given, the Dementia Together.
Mhm.
And that's an online support group. So they have
Yes.
support groups and then they have online free trainings.
Yes.
And that, I'm sure, kind of helped give you some of this information that you shared with us today.
Yes.
And then here locally for Steamboat, the second Tuesday of the month at 10:30 at the community center, there's caregiver support groups. And then also in Craig, the third Thursday of the month at 11 o'clock at the Senior Social Center. So I'll be sure to list all of that information so that you can find support either online, regionally, or even here locally as well.
And maybe I'll see you there, somebody.
There you go. You can look
Yeah.
for a friendly face and know that someone can relate
Going
to
through the
what you're
same
going
thing,
through,
yeah.
which I think is super important. So thank you so much for joining us today and
Yeah,
sharing
no,
your journey.
Yeah, thanks for having
Thanks,
a platform
Cricket.
to, get people to be aware.
And you want
Yeah.
to show your sweatshirt that you have over there?
My Alzheimer's. Do you see?
So it's purple. So purple,
purple and the
purple
purple
ribbon.
Well,
ribbon.
hummingbird.
And the hummingbirds, yeah.
And the hummingbird is for Alzheimer's.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
one of
I-
the symbols.
I love that.
I didn't know that
Awesome.
about the hummingbird. I knew the purple ribbon, so that's beautiful. I'm
Yeah.
glad you wore that
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for educating us and
Thanks
our
for having me.
listeners.
Yeah.
You did a really, really good job. Yep. So big points. Prepare if your parents haven't prepared because
Yeah,
that
that's a
accident
big one.
happened. I mean,
Know
thank
their
God.
business. Know their
Yes.
business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thankful that your dad was so with it enough to have everything prepared and written out. But because you never know when an accident can happen and you
Yeah.
are left with the other one, if you don't have that prepared, it really hurts the whole family who has to come in and take care of them. So be prepared, be gentle with yourself, be
Mhm.
gentle with your parent. I think another thing is the isolation that you talked about. I think that's an
Yes.
important point for the caregiver, no matter who it is, the spouse or kids. You need to, this is why God gives us great friends. We are
Right.
supposed to have friends we
Your
can age
network.
with and that we
Mhm.
can, those are supposed to stay strong to give us support through the hard times. And if you don't have that, you have to be actively looking for it to find it if you want to heal. And that's for anything that has to do with mental health. We cover this all the time, but in this situation, it would be the same. Because if you isolated
Mhm.
and felt alone,
That
it would
is
be
a
a whole
mental
different
health thing.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the saddest thing is seeing an email from my dad to somebody, and he wrote in there, "My world is shrinking,"
Mm.
and I thought, "That's so hard."
Yeah.
I mean,
Ooh, that's a
Yeah.
tough sentence right there.
Yeah.
yeah,
My dad
broke my heart.
says that. And we're all gonna age. So
And
let's love our people.
I'm
get
not.
active.
You're not
I'm not going to
aging.
age. No, I stopped last year.
Our next episode is we have someone joining us from Advocates. It's part of November, is also domestic abuse awareness and domestic violence abuse. So we're going to hear a lovely recovery journey out of an abusive relationship and what she's doing and working towards now to help other women in need. So catch us for that one next time.
Thanks. See you next time.